From a giant tin box that looks like one of those storage pods. We fill ours with radio and TV shows. This is AirHamptons on WLIW-FM and here at LT. It's your April Fool, Bill McCuddy, along with the non-scale tones of Jim Turner, our one-man band over there, who's coming up with foolish tunes for the hour. And what a show we have. Prankster George Clooney. Is he Hollywood's #1 April Fooler? Also, foolish things you do in the garden with landscape designer Daniel Strohmeyer, and the foolish amounts of money some spend on privets. That's an expensive bush for people who don't know. That's Hamptons speak. It hides your fence. Also, what's happening in the Hamptons this month from Shakespeare to rock and roll. Also, new movies opening across the country, including the new IMAX theater in Southampton. All of that, plus the new movies that are opening across the country, and one actor who's been in over 700 films, and his foolish beliefs. How do they keep putting him in movies? First, though, you'd be a fool not to adopt a dog or a cat from ARF, and Kim Nichols is the executive director. She joins me along with Jamie Berger, who's the Director of Marketing and Communications. That's a big job, Jamie.
It is, but a job I love.
Yes, you do.
Good reason to get out of the bed every day.
And do it well. Listen, this is great work that you guys do all year long. Kim, welcome. And I guess the first question, for people who don't know, we just came out of Women's History or Women's Month, and 2 women or 3 women actually started ARF a few years back.
Yes. Our founding mothers began 50 years ago. We just had our 50th anniversary last year.
You and Saturday Night Live.
Yes, and Chuck Scarborough.
Right.
So we are honored to be part of that class. And what happened were people would come out for the summer, they would adopt animals, and then when it was time to go back in the fall, they would just set them free. So these women found that heartbreaking, understanding that the animals can't survive on their own, and they started ARF. It was in response to a need to place these animals. We started as foster-based, and people were bringing them into their homes, and quickly figured out the need for a shelter.
Yeah, it's a great, and the thing that boggles my mind about that story is, to this day, 50 years later, people come out from the city with a dog or a cat, and when they go back to the city, they don't take it. So it's still a problem. What are we doing about it?
So what we see more of today are people who are now unhomed, or the homeless, and so they have to turn in their animals because they don't have housing anymore. We're seeing many medical cases where it's just cost prohibitive for the family, and it's those heartbreaking decisions that people have to make. And ARF is an incredible place because we have full medical, we have a training facility for the animals that have behavioral issues. We can take this animal in, work on all the issues that are facing this animal, and find another loving home for the animal.
Jamie, do you have any idea in 50 years how many dogs and cats have been adopted at ARF? If you had to just ballpark a number?
I will ballpark. I think it's about 33,500 animals over the last 50 years.
It's crazy.
Give or take.
And
Yeah.
a beautiful new facility that opened, 2 years ago, that where they are trained or where they have a special place. When Mrs. McCuddy and I get in a fight and she sends me to the doghouse, I go to ARF because it's so nice there. It's really a beautiful facility. And so getting the word out is your job in communication. So what are the kinds of things that people respond to at ARF? I know you do a big thing in the summer, a big gala that's great.
We have our Bow Wow Meow Ball. That's going to be August 16th this year. And then you're familiar with the dog walk in October 11th. But we do many different things. But you'd be surprised. Sometimes it's the smallest little 5-second video that can get the attention of the public and go viral, which is exactly what happened around the holidays this year with one of our dogs, Sassy, who had been at the shelter, rescued from Louisiana a few years ago, been overlooked for many years. A few things against her, just in the fact a fabulous dog, loved children. She was a little dog selective, but she was black and she had some pit in her, pit bull. So a lot of people came to the shelter, would love her. She was our go-to anytime we had a school group come in. She was just amazing with the children, but no one would actually commit to adopting her. And I guess it was around the holidays. My partner in crime, Tess Pinchick, she helps me with social media. She does a great job. And Sassy is so adorable. She does a little tippy tap when she gets excited. And so Tess captured the tippy tap on video and basically just put up that Sassy had been at the shelter for so many days and kind of like, why isn't anyone taking me home? And I'll tippy tap for you. And it took off. And then I think it was within a few weeks, we had someone step up.
How many views? Do you know?
Oh, I think it
Over
was
2 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
But it was something so simple and just really just took a moment to capture people's hearts. And then we found someone, got spread, a friend saw it, sent it to another friend, and there was a lovely couple from upstate New York that drove down. There was even snow in the forecast, and they came a day early to make sure that this meeting was going to happen. And
Strap the car to the front, strap the dog to the front of the car, and the car.
Actually, the dog, they had a cover in the back seat,
Oh.
and the wife sat in the back seat with Sassy on the ride home. They were wonderful.
Yeah, and
But as Jamie said, this went viral. It took someone in Georgia who contacted this couple who had lost their dog just a few weeks earlier, and they weren't looking forward it. And that's how this adoption happened. So that anybody, if you follow us at Hamptons, please share those videos, get that word out. There is an adopter for every single one of our animals. It's just finding that person. And social media makes it possible.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. Like, is it much easier now to adopt stray dogs and cats because you can make a cute video and you couldn't do that 20 years ago? I mean,
Everybody can make a cute video. So I think it's the benefit comes to the person looking for that animal because the video shows you so much more about their personality. So it's when you watch that match happen and people's eyes light up and people think they know what they want, but then when you see it, it's a beautiful thing that happens. And that's where social media and the videos and the pictures really come into play.
now I want to keep this upbeat, but I just have to ask one question. If those people had come down from upstate New York and they hadn't been right, you refuse people occasionally, right? You say you're not a good fit for this animal, even if do some people say they're going to be, and you look at them and go, this isn't going to work.
yeah.
Yeah, it's part of what we do. We have
It's a
a
process.
very strong adoptions team. And so there is a process that you go through with the application, and we want to make sure that it's a good match. So everyone in the family meets the animal. So you can't.
And if they have other animals, do they bring them and make sure everybody plays nice?
They
Yes.
do bring the dogs. The cat's a little more difficult, but we do test the dogs at ARF to see if they're, okay.
Compatible with
the most part, yeah.
right, dogs get along with cats, cats
Yeah.
get along with dogs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's very important because we have so many dogs that end up with us because someone, say, fell in love with an Australian Shepherd or a cattle dog because they're adorable. I happen to have one. Very high energy. They need a job. They need to be active. So that's an important thing to know the breed. Huskies, very popular. That's a difficult dog to have if you have a small apartment. They need a lot of exercise and they need to be brushed.
Is that something I don't know until I get the animal home? And sometimes people come back and say, we bit off, sorry, we didn't know it was
It
going
does
to be this
happen, and I
difficult."
think that kind of is what maybe sets ARF apart, is that we are always there for our animal. We're there for a resource, whether you're having behavior issues or training, you can call us and we will help you work through that in hopes of keeping the animal in the home.
Do a lot of celebrities adopt out here? Do we have some famous? You don't have to tell us who, but like are some animals getting better treatment right now than others in a penthouse someplace in Manhattan?
We've had some dogs that find fabulous homes with all kinds of adopters. Let's leave it at that.
Well, if you follow our social media, everybody who adopts is a celebrity because we post those pictures and we celebrate every adoption.
But like Kim said about our adoption team, you might come in, Bill, saying, I saw Fluffy on the website.
Right.
And they will sit with you, they'll talk to you, they'll find out what kind of lifestyle you have, how often or how many hours are you working from home, do you travel? And then sometimes through that conversation they'll find out, okay, well maybe Fluffy isn't exactly right for you, but we have,
Tiger.
Exactly. We have Tiger, and he's perfect for your lifestyle. Let's take a look at him, or why don't you meet him? So they really trust them when they lead you in a certain direction because they're good at what they do.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, and I'm not sure you know the answer to this, but I am curious to know about pit bulls because we hear all the time that they're not a good fit in every home. In your opinion, and it can be your opinion, or maybe there's some scientific fact to back this up, is their behavior hereditary or is it learned? So when we hear about them in an unfortunate incident, let's call it, have they been trained to do that? Are they generally a nice breed?
In my opinion, this is my opinion, they are a great breed. They are loyal, but they are also, you need to know what type of dog you have. And it would be the same whether it's a German Shepherd or a Pit Bull. If they're going to be guarding the home, then you need to be aware of that.
I had a girlfriend a long time ago that had an Akita, and she literally told me, stay home with the dog, don't walk it, I walk the dog. And I was, really? And she said they are trained, that breed, to not like other dogs. And it was the sweetest, gentlest, most lovely dog, but when you walked it, it growled, and it, left to its own desire, might have done something else to some of those. So I guess you have to be careful in that way.
But I would say pit bulls are they're intensely loyal. They're very affectionate, and a lot of it has to do with how they're raised. And I mean, one of my other dogs is a corgi. You want to talk about a dog with issues that will nip you and do all that? And everybody's like, they're so cute. I love him, but he's a little demon, and I know that. So it's kind of...
He likes you.
Yeah, he loves me.
Do you say that a lot to people? Oh, yeah.
But again, it's knowing the breed and knowing how to keep them active and fulfilled. And that can be any dog or cat. You can see behavioral issues with cats too if they're not fulfilled.
You said stars, everyone is one, but you do have Isaac Mizrahi, who's a very big component of ARF.
Yeah, he's a great supporter, and
He
helps
does.
out
He
with
comes
the
to
dog
the
walk.
ocean walk you were talking about, and last year emceed it. He lives around the corner in Bridgehampton. I'm not going to give his address. Well, I'll maybe put it below in the comments. No, but the charming guy. But during COVID, he was doing QVC from his home, and he was holding up dresses and stuff. And my wife and I are sitting, and she goes, "Do you realize now if you just went next door, you could be on TV?" So just stick my head in the window, and I came this close to doing it. We're still friends because I didn't do that.
And I think that Isaac is amazing in how much he loves his dog. And we are really grateful for the fact that he does sketches of the dogs. And when we do our annual dog walk, that's the t-shirt you get. It's an original piece of artwork done by Isaac Mizrahi, but the sketches are so incredible because he loves these dogs. And this year's sketch it's a new dog, so people better save the date for the dog walk because it's the only way you get the t-shirt.
Oh, all right. So there's a nice tease. Tell me about, not everyone does treat animals the way they should be treated. And I know you're working up in Albany with some folks up there, legislation. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so ARF is a member of the New York State Animal Protection Federation. And what that group does, it's 130 shelters across the state of New York, is we work with the governor's office and the legislature to make sure that there is legislation to help protect animals. And New York is fantastic in being progressive in the protection of especially dogs. And I haven't seen that in other places, and it's impressive what happens. It's now a felony to abuse a dog, which is hugely important.
That's new? That hasn't always been?
It was a misdemeanor. So
and in all 50 states now, or you think New York is leading the way in that, or?
It goes state to state. One of the things that we're working on is trying to make dog fighting a racketeering crime. because then right now, if you are convicted of dogfighting, it's about a $10,000 fine. That's the cost of doing business.
And also a misdemeanor still, or now felony?
It's an e-felony. So we're trying to get it into racketeering means there's jail time and the fines go up exponentially. If you want to stop something, this is how you go about it.
And it's still going on? I mean, as a category, there's still dog fight.
There's still animal fighting across the state of New York, unfortunately, yes.
All right, let's get on more of an upbeat topic. Are we neutering more than we did 50 years ago or 40 years ago, or are...
Most definitely. And ARF is out in the forefront of that. So one of the things we do is Operation Cat, which works with the community cats, also known as feral cats. And those that are living in the community, they're wild animals, so they won't go into people's homes, but they're managed by different volunteers. And if you let us spay, neuter, and vaccinate, which keeps the cats healthy,
Right.
then ARF will provide food for your colony. So we make that deal, and we have all the colonies mapped. We know where they are. We know who's taking care of them. The other piece of it is any animal that's adopted from ARF is spayed and neutered, fully vaccinated, and microchipped.
We are a cat house, I guess that's the wrong term, and at the McCuddy's, because we have 4 feral cats now that live, and my wife feeds them every day. Is that the right thing to do?
Absolutely.
If they find a home outside of your home, do you discourage that, or do you encourage people to
As long
take
as
care
you
of
keep
them?
feeding them.
Uh-huh.
So you've now made a commitment to those cats.
Oh, I know.
If you don't want them, it's hard. And you call ARF anytime. We have Jessica and Shayna and Sam will answer any kind of questions. We can also help teach you how to trap the cats so we could spay and neuter and vaccinate them. Because you now have a colony. 4 is a colony. And there are different statistics out there, but 4 unneutered or spayed cats can quickly become a couple thousand.
And if I had chips in them, you'd be able to look at a screen and see there's the
No,
McCuddy
but
house. And
if something happens to them, if someone picks them up, if, heaven forbid, they get hit by a car, then the microchip will be tied back to you and you know where they are. You can't see where they are, but if someone picks up your cat,
Yeah,
then
it's not like
we
a
scan
tracking
it.
location-wise, but
see.
it's an identification. It's a little chip that goes like at the base of their neck that you can scan and get a number, then goes
it's a
back.
health card. It's their little, it's
much,
their
an
medical
ID.
history maybe and everything that's happened to them.
And it's essential. We saw that we were working with different shelters to help clear space out in LA when the fires were happening. And it was heartbreaking where people can't find their pets, but they're also not microchipped. So they could be in any one of a number of shelters or gone. And they didn't know. So it's painless, it's inexpensive, and it's a great way to tie your animal back to you.
Let's talk about you personally. Jamie? Let's start with you. Where were you in the night of? No. How did you?
wouldn't remember.
How did you get into this? What were you doing, and how did this career happen for you?
Well, actually, Bill, I started in radio as well.
Really?
I did.
Well,
yeah.
welcome back.
Exactly. So yeah, I was in radio for quite a while. Worked at some of the local radio stations, Beach Radio. Then I also worked at, well, not when it was LIW, but I was there when it was before that part of the university.
As a DJ or as a?
I worked both on air and then also behind the scenes in operations. And then from there is when I then moved over to ARF. When Southampton College got sold, LIU had sold it to Stony Brook, and the station was a little up in the air about what was happening. So one of our board members, Zoe Komitsis, who also had a background in radio, I had worked for her at Beach Radio, and she was on the board at ARF, and she had mentioned that there was a position open there. And I had come to interview, and that was 15 years ago.
And always an animal lover from your childhood? Did you have pets in your house?
Actually, we had one dog growing up, and I have a story about puppy mills, actually, because that's how I learned about them. I had bought my first dog out of college. I wanted a pet. We had had a dog growing up, but also we had bought him from a pet store, and he got sick quickly and passed away. Didn't really think anything of it. And then when I went to college, graduated, came home and found an apartment, I was like, I want a pet. I went to the local pet store and bought a Chihuahua. And Until I worked at ARF, I realized where that dog had come from. We had done a puppy mill rescue, and we had these small breed Chihuahuas, Yorkies coming off of a transport. And as they pulled the dogs off, these were the parents of the dog that I bought from the pet store that were now, well, not directly related,
okay.
but it just brought it home for me, saying like, wow, I bought
You
this
didn't
dog.
do a 23andMe.
No, and I just made the connection that I had purchased this dog, and then I realized where the dog had come from, and by purchasing from the pet store was kind of perpetuating the problem of the demand and the supply for these kind of dogs. And it opened my eyes about, you know, rescuing in shelters and adopting animals and just making a difference in that way. Wow. So, and
it's not all breeders have this issue. So a puppy mill and the cases that she's talking about, by law, and this group that I was talking about before has now made the banning of sales of puppies, kittens, and rabbits in pet stores because of this. You can be in a cage that is 6 inches bigger than your body, and that's where you live. That's the heartbreaking part. That's the piece that she's talking about. It's not that ARF is against breeders. If you have a dog and you've met the mom and dad,
Right.
and you
So there's
see
a
where it's
distinct
raised.
difference between
Exactly.
a puppy mill and breeders.
and reputable breeders.
But do we have pet stores that have pets anymore, or
No, it's now, as of December 15th, it's banned
in New York?
in New York.
Right. Because we used to walk up and down Lexington or Madison, and there'd be these, you know, gorgeous little, you know, in the window. How much is that doggy in the window? And usually $5,000. And so that is not. I don't see those anymore, and I assume it's because organizations like yours are doing a good job of getting good animals into good homes.
Exactly.
Yeah, and there's a difference, like Kim said, a reputable breeder and these puppy mills, a big difference. If you've gotten a certain breed that you love, you know, that breeder, you are getting grilled in a sense of your background and how well you're going to take care of this animal. You know, if the breeder puts the dog on a plane to meet you and you've never met them, those are some questionable things that you should ask to see the parents of the dog, for sure.
We have two. We're rescue fails. Mrs. McCuddy would take them in, fall in love with them, and then we. So.
What's her number?
Is there? You have it. Believe me. I'm not giving it to you again. Is there any way to curtail the licking? I get a lot of licking. No, we like that. And for you,
bonus
for you,
having a dog.
for you, Kim, the background always an animal is at home when you were a child, and
Always. It came from my grandmother. She grew up, so I'm from Vermont originally, and my grandmother grew up in a 2-room house where she raised 9 kids. She grew all her own food, and she in between would rescue cats. She would rescue barn cats, and she would make sure the animals were spayed and neutered, and because she knew how quickly it could get out of control. And from there, I just always think of my grandmother. And I went into healthcare. I worked with hospice nurses, and they would carry these big leather gloves in the back of their trunk. And I'm going, what is that for? And they would rescue barn cats or outdoor cats because they understood that in order to take care of the family, you have to take care of the entire family. And after someone would have died, they would find homes for these cats or the dogs. You know, it was important to the individual to know everybody was taken care of. And so when this job came around, it was kind of a culmination of everything that I had done. And
were you running an organization that wasn't pet related before you came to
I was
ARF?
working for the Retreat, which was a domestic violence agency, for 10 years. And then I was at Southampton Hospital fundraising, because healthcare is essential and near and dear to my heart. And so it all happened very quickly as ARP was finishing up construction and wanted to reopen, and it's a dream come true. I just, to be able to work with, like, Jamie puts her whole heart into this. Everyone at ARF is so dedicated to what they do, and they love what they do. And sometimes the work is hard, sometimes we cry together, but there's so many days that we laugh together and we're celebrating these adoptions and seeing the progress that these animals are making. There is no better place in the world, in my opinion, than ARF.
I'm begging you to cry on this show because we're coming up on sweeps, and it would really help the ratings. So from the barns and your grandmother in Vermont, did you ever meet Ben and Jerry?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Ben, yeah.
Well, you have. Okay, great. We need an ARF flavor Fallon's got the Tonight Show. We need a chunky adoptable monkey or something that would get the ARF message across. Okay, just a thought. Maybe you handle the marketing, Jamie.
Munchy Mutts.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
No, I did not know that. Well, that's a whole nother show. It'll all come out at the trial.
There's an ice cream graveyard up there too. You really should go to Ben and Jerry's.
Really? Wow. What was the name of your first pet?
Margot.
Okay, I'm writing that down because that's clearly your password. Ladies, this has been a treat. ARF does great work. What's happening in April? What's happening this month there and maybe May?
Well, we're going to have dog training classes. Every month we have a new session that kicks off at the William P. Rayner Training Center, one of our pride and joys with the construction of beautiful training facility.
Yeah.
And our classes are open for not only anyone who's adopted from ARF, but also open to anyone in the public who has a dog and is looking to train them, which I highly recommend that they do. Everything from socialization classes for puppies and older dogs to agility to different kinds of workshops. So it's,
And the owners come with the animals, obviously,
Yes.
and they are.
It's a
learning
series,
how to-
usually 4 or 5 classes, very affordable, where you bring your dog, you work through the agility course or learn different obedience, and you can work your way from basics all the way to advanced, and even there's a canine good citizen class that you can take.
My
where-
wife is going to send me
You
me
need
in
it.
for these classes. Yeah, I'm off a leash,
We'd recommend
which is
it.
good.
We have an off-leash class too, so.
Any kind of bump you get in the summer? We talked about the problem of people coming out here and getting an animal and then leaving it. But do you see more adoptions in the summer?
We see tons of visitors in the summer. So ARF is open 7 days a week, and we encourage people to come
That's
up.
great.
Because we depend on volunteers to walk the dogs. They do that twice a day, and then they come and socialize the cats. And it's invaluable. I mean, it gives entertainment to our animals also.
Those
So-
cat rooms are like a labyrinth of little tunnels and indoor, outdoor, and all. It definitely is worth seeing. Remind people where it is.
Oh, sure. Oh, well, right down the road from LTV, 124 Daniels Hill Road. So, like she said, open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we welcome people coming by and saying
And the
hello.
website, sure.
Well,
go-
before that, though, we have one more event, which is Pet Celebration Day.
Oh.
And that is at the ARF campus. So we invite everyone in. It's a free event. There's tons of different activities from toenail clipping for the dogs. And
I wanted a spa day.
we will have agility going on. The trainers will be on site to answer questions. There's a lot of giveaways that day. But the best part of that day is many of the adopters come back. So we get to
alumni.
see it. That's exactly what it is. And we get to see the animals, almost all dogs, with their families and how much they've grown up and how they change. And it's a
great
one.
day.
It's a fantastic day.
And that's May 17th,
May 17th.
Saturday, 11 to 2.
33,500 adopted animals later, here we are. Thank you so much, Jamie Berger, Kim Nichols. ARF is a great, great organization. Give us the website one more time.
Sure, it's arfhamptons.org, or you can follow us on social media at arfhamptons.
We will do that. Jim Turner, a little dogs and cats living together. Suddenly I'm Aykroyd from Ghostbusters. And ladies, thank you so much for joining us. We mentioned that this...
Yes. She don't have to worry. Princess don't have to work. I love my princess. I love my princess all the time. It's original.
Yeah.
You know that black dog fills my heart with wonder. Fills my heart with rhyme.
Jim Turner, the one-man band with an original, I want to say, and be specific about this, an original musical number that we can't be sued for or allowed
I wrote
to pay any royalties for. This is, if you're just joining us, from the road not taken called Industrial, next to an airport with more deer than Cessnas, and across from a church that seems to worship parking lot construction. This is AirHamptons, with lots of inside jokes. I'm Bill McCuddy, and that was my backup singer, Jim Turner. Jim, no singing. That was fake news.
Thank you.
No, thank you for being here as usual. Lots to talk about in this hour. This is our April Fool's edition. We are talking about what's going to be happening in the Hamptons. And let me just remind you that a couple of big events that are happening. Macbeth, April 10th, at the West Hampton Beach Performing Arts Center at 10 a.m. So, any morning you're thinking, what I could really use now is a little Shakespeare. Macbeth, that's on April 10th. April 12th, comedian Mick Thomas is in the Grand Ballroom at the Canoe Place Inn and Cottages. He is known for the comedy Dry Bar or Dry Comedy Bar and the podcast Cheaper Than Therapy. And this month also Guild Hall in East Hampton, honoring Katie Couric, Neil Patrick Harris, Jane Krakowski, and others at their 39th Annual Academy of Arts Achievement Awards dinner on Tuesday, April 22nd. That's in the city at the Rainbow Room in New York City. Also in the city, speaking of animals, a band called Deep Donkey is at the Cutting Room in New York Wednesday, April 9th. This is a rock tribute cover band made up of Wall Street guys. I know a few of these characters. And it's like if the cast of Succession had a garage band, if the garage was in a Ferrari dealership. So the Cutting Room, a very cool room. Jim Turner's played the Cutting Room.
Oh, yeah.
Many times.
We play it all the time, man.
Last month, 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live.
Right.
And there was, in 3.5 hours, G.E. Smith playing the guitar.
Oh, yeah.
50 years later. Was he wasn't there the first years, wasn't he?
He was in the original cast, I believe, with Gilda and Belushi and those guys. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that, he went on to a lot of other things, playing guitar with Mick Jagger, Bob Dylan, but he was really right in the scope of the world in that show.
G.E.'s been a guest on this program, and he is a music icon, as is our own Jim Turner. Jim, do we have any spring plant music at all? Something that inspires people to go out into the garden? Because say hello.
Yeah, I'm a friend of G.E. Smith. I like to drop names.
Okay, that's good enough. Daniel Strohmeyer is from something called Altera Landscapes.
Correct.
Hey, welcome, Daniel.
Thank you, Ben.
Another old friend. He's a pot dealer, and what I mean by that is he takes these giant pots and he plants incredible.
I also sell marijuana.
And no, do you know he doesn't? How many people are when you go to somebody's backyard here? Welcome to AirHamptons.
Thank you.
When you go to somebody's backyard, are they growing pot?
I have not run into that here in New York. I did grow up in California. Did some of my professional career there, and you would definitely run into that regularly.
It's legal, right? In your own garden to do? Like,
I don't know. So
good. That's good. Stick with that story.
But I don't think people are out policing for it. So.
Okay. What is the most popular plant in the Hamptons? I mentioned at the top of the show privets, which, again, for people who don't know, is basically just an expensive bush that the rich and famous put around their house so people can't see in. Is that probably the biggest selling?
Privet's actually losing a little bit of favor these days because
Really?
deer have started eating it, so it no longer is the choice.
When did they start? Weren't they eating it all along?
They did not eat it, and then these deer have just become so overrun and so hungry that they have adapted to eat a lot of stuff that they used to be toxic to them. So
Okay, so privet's on the downfall.
Yes, yeah. So it's
growing
being
less
replaced-
popular.
Yeah,
sorry.
it's being replaced by stuff that deer have not yet adapted to eat. So
Your phone rings, and what's the biggest request out here? What do people want to grow? What's the thing that they want a rose garden, or they want an herb garden, or what's the number one request? You get?
I think so most of what we get is people calling and just saying either they just bought a house and they want to redo the gardens, or they've been trying to maintain their own garden and it's gotten out of hand. I think what most people are really adding these days is something called a dining bosque, which is a very kind of European idea where you have a dining table in a gravel area and it's shaded by
like a pergola, and then they grow
it's shaded by
bougainvillea,
trees,
or
though.
they grow. What do they grow on the? What grows quickly? If I'm going to put a nice little pergola or any kind of a structure, and I want shade to grow quickly above it.
So kind of your quickest is going to be a wisteria, which certain, the traditional wisteria varieties are now kind of no longer allowed here because they are invasive. There is what they call blue moon wisteria, which is a little slower growing, but still you get
Invasive
that.
meaning it like takes over and starts to grow
yeah.
to the neighbors and then down the street. And then,
Yeah, and then it grows all up through your neighbor's trees and kills your neighbor's trees, and so it's a great plant if you don't like your neighbor, but
yeah.
otherwise, and it
No,
can
no,
be-
we love our neighbors. And bamboo grows like weeds out here too, right?
Yeah, there's a few varieties of bamboo which aren't considered invasive. There's a heavily bamboo. It's a little shorter, but typically you couldn't find it in a nursery anymore to plant it.
Oh, is that? I didn't know that.
The invasive types, yeah. So a lot of plants, because our climate changed, so it became a little warmer, so certain plants which used to not be invasive are now invasive, or just over the years we were planting stuff and we didn't realize they were invasive, and we've grown to realize that they're spreading and kind of damaging the ecosystem. You can't find those plants really in nurseries anymore, or if you are, they've been hybridized to no longer be invasive.
How do the gardens in the Hamptons compare to the rest of the country?
Well, I have worked in the rest of the country, and I moved back here.
That's why I asked you.
Yeah. Just because, I mean, people really do take care of their yards and take landscaping seriously. I would say this is one of the best markets for it.
Without you, what's the biggest mistake just amateur gardeners make? What are they doing wrong?
Yeah, I would say there's three
people,
mistakes.
and you can name them?
Yeah. The first one is definitely buying the wrong plant for the wrong situation. Maybe you saw a beautiful plant at your friend's and you bought it and planted it at your house, and it just doesn't do it.
Really, my friends here in the Hamptons, and they can grow it, and I'm in they're in Sagaponack, and that's wealthy soil, and I'm in
Your
Hampton Bay.
plants have
I mean,
preferences.
yeah,
No.
okay.
No, it's more that maybe they have full sun and you're partial shade, or different water soil types or something. It just doesn't work for that area. So paying attention to where you are buying the plant and planting it. I think the other thing that we see a lot is that buying a plant is not like buying a couch. You don't buy it and you set it and then nothing happens. This thing grows, and it can grow up to 20 to 50 feet or something, depending on what it is. So a lot of times people will buy a very small little potted plant, put it in a very small area, and then 5 years from now, it's kind of taken over their whole garden and killed everything else around it.
What do you think of the little tree behind you there? It hasn't grown at all.
I don't
It
think you
hasn't.
have to worry
we
about
water
it.
and water and water. Those listening on the radio, I'm pointing to a plastic fern, and hilarity is ensuing in the control room. So what can we do? What can we get? It's April now. What are we supposed to do? What should we be doing to the garden? Are we getting ready? Are we doing a spring cleanup? What's happening this month?
You should. So our very last date for frost is April 30th. So that's like the very last time we anticipate this year that there will be a frost that could damage the more tender plants and everything. Typically that means within 2 weeks of that, you're kind of in a safer zone to start planting things. But if you have a landscaper and you want to do stuff, you should definitely have this conversation with them already to kind of get yourself on the schedule. So do that now if you haven't done it. In general, you should be kind of looking at your lawn, maybe dethatching it. If there's some areas that look a little bare, there's still time to put some seed on so you could actually get it going.
For this season, it'll look okay.
Season. Yeah.
HGTV tells me that this is also the time to start doing vegetables. Is that true? Tomatoes, cucumbers are too early out here.
So you can start planting your seedlings. I would recommend keeping them indoors when you first plant them, and then moving them outside during the day, and then moving them inside, because there's still a risk that kind of as the tender little shoots are coming up, they could get frost damage if it gets too cold at night.
People love to follow the money. What do some people spend a month at some of the giant houses I drive by?
I mean, it depends. You have to, a lot of these kind of bigger estates, historically, they were created with the idea that there would be a full-time caretaker that would work there year-round. So if you think about money, that is a pretty high full-time salary for a
If I
person.
had 3 or 4 acres, could I have $1 million garden?
I don't think you would be hitting that, but you'd be hitting high six figures.
Even with rare, like, I'm guessing bonsais are expensive. I'm trying to think of things that are particularly expensive, and it can get costly pretty quickly.
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah. It can.
I
it
keep
can add
explaining
up,
that to
so-
Mrs. McCuddy.
Oh yeah, she has a very beautiful garden.
Yeah.
So.
Lucky me, she has a green thumb. And what about we hear the term perennial and non-perennial. So what's the shelf life for something that's considered a perennial? Will it last forever if it's?
No, that's actually a really great question. I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand about plants. Is just like humans, plants have life that.
Wait, this ends?
Yeah. But
Public TV goes on and on and on, and so does public radio. Yeah.
But
seriously.
yeah, and some are shorter than others. So, some trees will live for 60 years or so. That's on the high end. Some perennials that you buy will only live about 5 to 10 years. So a lot of people, hydrangeas are one of the biggest kind of plants out here or something. A lot of times because they weren't really bred for this climate, depending on the variety, they will only last about 5 to 7 years. So a lot of people buy them. They look great for, a good 3 or 4 years, and then they kind of start petering out. It's because it's the end of their
Really?
life.
I never knew that. I don't see anybody replanting hydrangeas.
You don't see it, but your wife does it frequently.
These are the things I don't need to know. So what are the other things that people need to be aware of when they decide they want to have a big garden in that patch in the back?
I think the most important here, especially, is with climate change and everything, don't do anything if you think you're going to hand water anything. Have a professional put in an actual irrigation system in, because the weather's so vague. We're getting cycles of drought. We had an extremely bad dry season at the end of the year where we were actually having to give supplemental water to evergreens. So make sure that you actually have a functioning, working irrigation system, because you will never be able to hand water your actual property yourself.
I have one Barbara Walters question. If you could be a tree, what tree would no? But what are some of your favorite plants?
I think out here, there are plants which come into cycles of favor. Right now we're using scabiosa, which is what they call pincushion flower. It has not a great name, but
There's a cure. We just need your money. What does that look like? I don't even know. Have I seen it? I just didn't know the name.
It is in your wife's garden.
Okay. Please don't come to my house. But it's a flowering.
Yeah, it's a small flower. It has like a little kind of button head to it. And then eventually all the little petals fall off, and it leaves a really beautiful kind of structural seed head that is actually used in a lot of flower arrangements.
So we have a variety of different kinds of gardens out here. I noticed that some people have an English garden, some people at the back of Baker House, it's like gorgeous, but that's one look. Then I go by a contemporary home out here, and it's got seagrass, and that stuff's perennial, right? The stuff that looks wild but isn't, that is supposed to look indigenous to the area.
Yeah, so there's not a whole lot of kind of indigenous plants that are used in landscape today. There is a big push to use natives and stuff, but these days it's not.
What's the most natural? What is the most indigenous plant to the eastern end of Long Island?
Depending on where you are, it goes just by neighborhood to neighborhood, because really plants will grow in small societies. So, but I would say bayberry is one of the great plants that you can find in a nursery that looks great in your garden and everything, but is a true native to this area.
Okay, and if I can't believe I'm about to say this, but if you have your own greenhouse, we're not getting a greenhouse, but if you had your own, would you have the ability to have plants all year long and then take them out into the garden?
It is a little bit, it's not as simple as that, because it has to be something that can be moved from place to place. A lot of plants don't like being moved in and out of an area. They want to sit in one place and grow and spread their roots and everything. So, but if you want to bring in something like citrus trees or something that's maybe a little more tender that you couldn't keep year round, Yeah, that's something that you could have a greenhouse that would allow you to do that. And there are greenhouses around here which will take your plants for you.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Of course there is. The Hamptons has everything. There's somebody that comes and gets your plants and takes them and puts them in a nice warm place. Do they take them to Florida? They go to Florida.
I mean, if
No,
they,
they don't.
no.
But they're in like a warm kind of a greenhouse.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed this conversation so much. I want Jim to play again. We have how many more minutes in the show? Yeah. Okay. So before we go, what's your number one advice besides calling Altera Landscape?
I would say that if you are planning on taking your garden, it's always going to be about 30 to 50% more work than you think it's going to be. So just be prepared for that.
And do you like clients or people that leave you alone, or do you like when they get very involved in wanting to help and sort of learn about it?
I think there's a very nice middle line where you can have clients who are totally unattached and unaware and don't even enjoy what's going on, and then clients who are calling you about every leaf that falls. So, I like the right in the middle of the road.
I have a feeling I know where my wife falls, and I just want to apologize right here. Listen, it was lovely to have you. We should also mention that one of your clients is a regular guest on this program. It's Patrick McLaughlin, and give us the dirt on Patrick. What's going on? Does he have a green thumb?
No.
Well, he used to be a client of yours.
He does a very good job of keeping his Christmas poinsettias alive until the middle of the year, so I will give him that.
And before you go, I mentioned the pot thing that the people plant generally around their swimming pools, but also sort of in the backyards. What's the most popular and easiest to grow planting? Something that drapes and looks nice and is relatively easy to maintain.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. If you're looking for just a summer something to grow in a pot or something, if you go to your local nursery, they're going to have a lot of really easily maintainable stuff, and the people there will be able to kind of give you help if you describe where your pot is or how big it is.
What's the sturdiest for people that are just like flowers for dummies?
Sure.
Don't look at me.
Yeah, if you want something that doesn't need a lot of water and doesn't need a lot of care and puts out a lot of blooms, go with a geranium. It needs to be in full sun, but it'll be there. It won't last for winter. But if you just want something for color for summer, throw a geranium in your backyard. Water
And something
once a
that
week.
doesn't need much light, and which would be completely idiot-proof. What is there anything like that?
I mean, then you're looking at more kind of like specialized plants. There's a range of them, but it would really depend on what purpose it's going to serve. So.
And without getting you in trouble or in a lawsuit, but like, do things like Miracle Grow and all these things that we see on television, do they really help? I mean,
Yes and no. I wish there were a more succinct answer, but a lot of commercially available fertilizers do work very well.
are they dangerous? Because we're out here, everything is about green, meaning like, let's not do anything to the earth. Everything's washing into places we swim. So does the organic stuff work?
So yes and no. So are they dangerous? Yes and no. There is no immediate short-term risk. Miracle Grow is not going to give you cancer if you use it and it splashes on your feet or something. However, there is the risk if we're overusing fertilizers of long-term ecological damage because we overuse them and they flow into our waterways. And because we are so connected to our water here and to water sports and activities, there is the risk that over time we are polluting our water sources.
But there are decent things that work, that are organic, that
absolutely.
kill certain things that we don't want and don't harm the rest of us.
So I'm not going to say like all fertilizers are evil because that will be oversimplifying something.
Well, we have
not
pets.
True.
Sue won't let anything into the backyard if there's been anything put on the ground.
So careful use of certain fertilizers and even pesticides and everything are completely fine. However, the key word there is careful use. You really do want to be mindful and aware of how you're using them and not just...
The golf courses
splashing
use
everywhere.
tons of chemicals, don't
Yes, they do.
Those
Yeah.
beautiful green golf courses. Because somebody once told me, I was playing with a bunch of guys I won't say the club, but they said, don't put your cigar on the ground because when you pick it, which is something very common that golfers do, if they just lay it down, hit the ball, pick it up, and they're smoking that whatever was on that ground, and the golf courses who will be not very happy with me saying this, but like.
Well, so over time, New York State especially has been very much more proactive about protecting watersheds and kind of restricting the use of certain chemicals and fertilizers and everything. So it is getting better. And there are local organizations like the Surfrider Foundation, which are actively kind of campaigning to protect certain waterways, do litter removal and everything like that. So,
I did a movie with them last month at
Excellent,
Canoe Place because they're big on the plastics that are getting into our bodies and our waters and everything. Hey, in the meantime, Daniel Strohmeyer has Stroh's. He has a beer in his last name. He brings pot to you, but it's the kind of pot that you can grow beautiful flowers in. And thank you so much for joining us on AirHamptons.
Thanks for having me.
Little growing music from Jim Turner. And thank you so much. We mentioned earlier that it's April Fools all month long, and one of the biggest fools, and I teased it at the top of the program, is George Clooney. And I mentioned him because he has a reputation for being a huge prankster. So we are on this program kind of giving him the crown of the biggest April Fool because he does things like the following. He was staying with Hamptonite Richard Kind, a great actor who has a terrific show on Netflix right now with John Mulaney. And the two were roommates in the old days. And Kind was one of the recipients of the $1 million briefcase. Now, I don't know if you know about this, but when George Clooney was just starting out, he slept on couches. He had a lot of friends that helped him get roles, including Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, which we should have brought up with Daniel. But he was so loyal to his friends that at one point he invited them all to his house. I think it was about 10 or 12 guys, and everybody got $1 million in a briefcase. He said, "This is for paying you back for all that you've done for me." Obviously, he had it at the time, still does, good for him. But when they were staying together, Richard Kind had a cat, and Clooney, without telling him, would clean the litter box every day. Kind thought the cat was constipated, took him to the vet, and when he got back, Clooney, after a few days, took some of his, what should we say, his own personal litter from his person and put it in the litter box, and Richard Kind thought that his animal had the largest litter box deposit of any other animal. Clooney told Kind also that he had taken art classes for a year before giving him a hideous work of art that he found in a dumpster. Kind hung it in the house for years, and when people said it's ugly, he said yes, but George painted it. Years later, George said, no, I didn't. He also put a small penis on board bumper sticker on Brad Pitt's car. And Matt Damon was perhaps one of the, Matt Damon was on the set of Ocean's whatever, and he told Clooney that he was trying to lose weight. So Clooney told the wardrobe department to take in Damon's pants ever so slightly every day for several weeks. He thought he was gaining weight. That is the great George Clooney. And one time Pitt and Clooney challenged producer Jerry Weinrib to a vodka drinking contest in a private plane to LA. Unbeknownst to Weinrib, Clooney and Pitt were drinking water. When Weinrib passed out, they filled his pants with M&Ms. I don't know why. George Clooney, we all hail George Clooney. He is currently on Broadway in the stage version of his Edward R. Murrow film, Good Night and Good Luck. Wow. In the time we have left, just about 2 minutes, I want to tell you about new April movies in theaters now, something called A Minecraft Movie with Jack Black and Jason Momoa, opened this weekend. Sounds stupid, it'll probably make barrels of money. Something called The Friend, starring Naomi Watts. She inherits a dog from Bill Murray. Constance Wu is also in this, along with something called Bing the Great Dane. And Bing the Great Dane, when publicists pitched me, the stars of the movie, was the only one they would allow me to talk to. Freaky Tales with Ben Mendelsohn and Pedro Pascal. The Unbreakable Boy, and later this month, G20, where terrorists overtake the G20 conference. Good, let's give that idea out there. Good. The Amateur with Rami Malek is basically a milquetoast Jason Bourne. The Wedding Banquet with Bowen Yang from Saturday Night Live. I'm looking forward to that. And Comics Shop with Eric Roberts. And yes, Eric Roberts is the guy I was telling you about at the top of the show. Julia's brother. He has made over 700 films. And that's unusual because he is a conservative actor and they don't work as much as the rest of Hollywood generally. No political statement there. I'm right down the middle. Hey, we're right down in the middle of being out of time. So I want to thank everyone. You've been listening, both of you have been listening to This is AirHamptons on WLIW-FM and LTV. On behalf of Jim Turner, all of our guests, and the crew here, thanks for listening. We will see you next month, unless that restraining order comes through. I'm Bill McCuddy. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you next time. Dogs and cats living together. LTV Studios is at 75 Industrial Road in Wainscott. Don't ever come here. You'll get a show. They'll just give you a show.